Good afternoon, my seeds of faith. I hope you all are enjoying the new upload. It's part one of a study where we are taking a deeper look into our confidence, how it grows and develops. And in today's video, I made a statement as I developed an example before you about the heart of man. What are some of the things that keep men from going before the Spirit of God because they look at their imperfections and their idiosyncrasies? And so, as they look at that, they feel that God is going to ponder them as well. And the truth of the matter is this, that God says, just as you are, come to Him. That part of the example was fine. But then I spoke about the church, and I wanted to come to make sure that y'all understand I am not anti church, I am pro church. However, I believe that there's a season for all things, and even entering into a church is important, that you enter into a church family based on the leading of the Lord. He knows where He wants to plant you, and He knows who you are, how you need to grow, how you need to be watered, and so forth and so on. And so, as you sojourn in developing your confidence in the Lord, you can bet that He's concerned about that area of your life as well and wants to lead you even to your place of praise and worship. Uh, Now, in a perfect world, all church houses that say they are divinely ordained by the Spirit of God to be would be just that. But we all know that that's not so. In my line of work, I work with a lot of people who have experienced a lot of negative things going into the church house for many reasons. But one, for the fact that they believe that church people are as close to perfect as can be. So they hold church people to a higher standard of humanity. And in that standard, is very little wiggle worm, wiggle worm, wiggle room. Okay. And so when they go into church and they are rejected because of what they have on, or they sense a feeling of just being pushed to the side because they're new and nobody really knows them, or they might hear something that's being spoken behind the pulpit. And I'll give this as an example. A lot of times when we go to church, our pastors teach us that, if you come to church late, you are in somehow heart deficient before God. I hesitate because I don't want to get too far in that. I just want to use it as an example and leave it there, okay? And so through the service, the pastor might say something about being late. Have you ever experienced that? So now let's just say that you've never been to a church before, and you were going through your day one Sunday and you were led to go to church, and you went to church and you were 15 minutes late. How are you going to digest the statement on being late? It would feel negative to you, would it not? And so a lot of times people will stay all the way to the end of the service, but as they're sitting there, they're determining within themselves that once they leave out of here, they are never coming back. You see somebody experiencing something that you question. And because you can't come right out and ask that question, you will develop an opinion that's based on what you've seen. Again, at the end of that service, you ain't gonna go back. You just, oh Lord, no. I ain't gonna, And then when it comes time to go into another church, you now have data within you, and you're gonna go into that next church looking for those two experiences that you've had. You follow what I'm saying? This is human nature. This is how we roll as people. I want you to know this, that when the Spirit of God Almighty, who is just, good, and nothing but love calls you, He doesn't care what kind of clothes you have on, whether they're holy or not, whether you smell or not. He doesn't care about your vernacular. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. He just loves and wants you. And if any of those things are amiss, then when he pulls you to him, he knows that he's going to pour into you in those areas. And those areas will no longer be an issue. Never are we to stand in judgment of anyone. Never are we to look at someone and say, because they don't look like us, that they don't belong. I don't care whether they have tattoos or a piercing. And look, y'all, I know what the word says about all of that. But hello, church people, what you have to remember is there are people who are living on this planet without God before they enter in to his love. Not because he hasn't been calling them, but because they were sojourning as you did, and they're going to have tattoos, and they're going to have piercing, and they're going to have potty mouths, and they're going to have all kind of things going on with them, spirit, soul, and body. And you best be at your best behavior, because God has called them home. He's called them into his self. That is our home. And if you are a church house that is ordained and sanctified by him to be, then you have been prepared to receive the very one that you are judging. So my job here at Seeds of Faith is to tell the truth exactly as it is. And that is what I do. So oftentimes you are going to hear me using church as an example because it needs to be. But I want you to know that my heart is pure before all that God wills for us as his children. And as his people, he tells us not to forsake the gathering of the brethren. So churches are developed and created by him for his purpose. And those that are blessed, and they are amazing. And I wish it were so that we would go right to them and all be safe, but it won't be that way for conditions that we have discussed in other videos. So I hope I've cleared that up for you and that you feel comfortable when you hear me using church as an example. Yeah, yes, there are many beautiful things that take places in church, right? But you don't see anybody running to a counselor because they've had a great time in church. You see somebody running to somebody in the Lord to say, what was that? Was that God? Is that real? Because if that is God, I don't want anything to do with him. And then I've got to tell them the truth. Okay? So this is where I stand. Now let's move on. I'll see you tomorrow for a pause for thought moment, but definitely we're going into part 2 of our study of confidence on Tuesday. So I look forward to seeing you then. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, hit that post notification bell all on the inside so that you'll be notified for times as this when I upload here. It could be anytime. I'm telling you what, I was getting ready to fix something to eat. I'm hungry, y'all. But the Spirit of God placed this in my heart, and I wanted to be obedient. He loves you. I love you too. I'm inspired by you, and I look forward to our next time in fellowship right here on Seeds of Faith. Thanks for stopping by. Bye, y'all.